And I guess I turn to you, the fractured media, because any White House is getting a lot of incoming from social media, from partisan media. How do you filter through all of that? How does any White House, and I'd like your response as well, and Josh, you mentioned that there was no Twitter really when you were in the White House, but how do you deal with that? Because you were there all 4 years and you're getting all the incoming, trying to figure out how to sort through it all.
Sure. Well, I should probably state for the record that I was offered the press secretary position 42 minutes after President Trump won election in the wee hours of November 9th, 2016, and I politely declined, and I did many times after that. So I didn't. He said, "You'd be great at that," and I said, I whispered to myself, "I'd be a terrible press secretary. Not even sure what they do." Lots of reasons. I wasn't even sure what they did. I see what they do at the podium, but I'm sure that there's a lot more that goes into that. I now understand what they do. But the point I'm making is, and also comms director, and I also frankly think, respectfully to the current administration who brags about it, I think women often get pushed into the scheduling and administrative and comms and press jobs in White Houses, and I wanted to be a policy person, or I certainly wasn't going to run away from the gold mine of life-changing money I was staring at, and 4 kids who were crappy ages then and continue to be crappy ages the entire time for mom to be in the White House. And so I wanted to work on policy, and I'm very proud and glad to have a boss who allowed that to be so. But I was also a very public-facing person because the president wants people out there who are able to communicate a message and communicate with people who otherwise may not have that information that day. And that's the key, I think, to the Trump White House, that my audience, people say, how did you do, I won't even name them because it elevates them, but how did you go toe-to-toe with that anchor, or how did you really push back on that one? I'd say, it doesn't even matter who's sitting across from me in the anchor's chair or who's on the other side of the blank camera. I can't see, they can see, they're sitting in a studio, they got all kinds of people talking in their ears, looking at teleprompters, people are handing them notes, and I'm looking into a blank camera in the heat, snow, sleet, and whatnot, and they're never my audience. The anchor is never my audience. The audience is the people. And there are people all across this country, ladies and gentlemen, who do not have access to information unless we provide it. And I think the one thing I will always credit President Trump for, I read about this in my book, is what I call the democratization of information. So what happened, because there was no Twitter, we had an awful lot of it. And what happened, though, is whether you liked a tweet or didn't like a tweet, and I like to say Donald Trump needs to tweet like we need to eat. It's just about better choices. But whether you like the tweet or not, the fact is that people received instantly and for free a presidential communication. And it cut out the middleman, so the middleman didn't like it. But a lot of Americans did, because they don't have to pay money to go to a fundraiser. They don't have to know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone to get them the information or the response. It's right there. And if you didn't like it, you can change the channel. But many people felt they learned an awful lot just by having a much more transparent, frankly, and accessible president press-wise. How did I deal with it? I was a lot nicer to people than they were to me and to my family, that's for sure. That'll never change. Some of you are in this room, and you know that. We see you. And it was completely inappropriate to become so personal to people who were just trying to do their jobs. But how do you deal with it? I think that it's very important to make sure that there's not information, what I call information underload. Mm-hmm. Okay? I think in our country we suffer from information underload. And at the White House or in an administration, a department or agency, you have a unique opportunity, maybe at Amazon, you have a unique opportunity to cure information underload. Of course, cure disinformation as well, and the thirst, I think in our case, to sort of the inclination to want to get the president and not get the story among some, not most, and certainly not all. But it's more fun, and actually it's easier. So go for the heat, not the light. But I think the information underload is a serious chronic problem in our society, where we're all inundated with information, but what did we really learn? And so there's a difference between information and education, and really trying to sift through that and make it digestible for people who are watching. I mean, did people ever pay more attention or watch every jot and tittle of a presidency. I doubt it, certainly doubt it compared to now. And so there's that. And also, I think managing the press also came with having an excellent and very direct relationship with President Trump. Because, you know, I'm not speaking up now because I didn't speak up then. God knows I spoke up then. And it is being able to be direct but respectful and deferential to the President of the United States, being one of the few people at the beginning who had walking-in privileges that I would never abuse. People would just walk in or walk through the back door. It's just so rude, and nobody ever taught me that. I didn't work in a White House, but I was raised by a woman, not a wolf, so I just intuited it would be rude to just walk in without an appointment. But having that access to the president, having a president who was not as hierarchical as maybe other presidents, allowed an exchange of information that was, I think, that was overall beneficial. And I think people having more access to their president, more access to democracy that way, is a positive thing. I'll also say this, that I certainly didn't ask. I never, until I wrote this book, never had an agent in my life. I never asked to be a household name. I never asked to be well known. I don't understand the outsized coverage of the quote Trump people. It was odd. But he was so different. He was so unconventional. And this country, twice in a row, with President Obama, Senator Obama at the time in 2008, and Mr. Trump in 2016, back to back, they went for people who were seen as political outsiders, who were not seen, who ran on quite successfully in their primaries and then in the general elections, and twice against Hillary Clinton, as being the outsider. And that is an identity that many people in this country share. They feel like they just have their nose pressed against the glass, looking in, saying, when is it my turn? What's in there for me? And then, of course, we went in an entirely different direction and voted for somebody who's been in Washington for 5 decades. So voters will surprise you. But while we're there, you know, I stood on it wasn't even my job, but the president wanted me to do it. And I was happy to do it, and I was happy to do it for the country. Don't be fooled, anybody. I stood out on that, what do they call it, North Lawn? I don't know why, or South Lawn, because there's all gravel. Pebble Beach, sometimes for 20, 25, 30 minutes at a time, taking lots of press questions, and in full view. And I thought it was important to take the questions, even from outlets that weren't particularly kind or fair, to my boss or to the rest of us, because I think it's important to answer those questions. If I didn't have an answer, I said it. I had no notes, no net, and I have to tell you, as a citizen of this country, who loves this country and wants any president and vice president to succeed, no matter who they are in their party, we can use a lot more of that right now.